Wednesday was a great day for unborn babies, for conservatives, for pro-lifers, anti-kill your baby people, the United States, and, anyone who's not morally bankrupt. Scotus, the Supreme Court of the United States, after 30 years, is finally hearing a case that could overturn Roe v. Wade and begin the process of ending this great stain upon our collective ledger. So far, it seems like the pro-life side is winning, but I'm still holding some reasonable doubt here. Who knows? Maybe the miscreants, taking medicine they don't need outside the building might just sway Chief Justice Roberts. But this still wouldn't be a full win. Don't get me wrong. I want us to win this one. But as we'll touch on later, if this does go our way, all that would ensure is that states can make their own rights, own laws. Many states will still have laws on par with communist China, North Korea, and the America that we have right now. Yes, this is the company I want to be in. These paradigms of human rights. But in almost half the states, babies will have the right to life, which hopefully means that all the feminist harpies will move away and take their girlfriends away. But honestly, this news has made me a little hopeful. I think you'll see that in the show today. Sure, we still have outrage stories like, Remi the Respectful Reindeer, and how he teaches 5-year-olds that biology doesn't matter. It's only what you feel inside that counts. And you, as a kindergartner, can be super hurtful to these strong warriors, these men and women of... Wait, hold on, can't call them that. These non-gender conforming, analogously, possibly, maybe vaguely human beings. They're as strong as the heroes of old. Or maybe we can get mad at the casualness of crime, mostly in Democrat hard blue cities, and how their moronic bail policies lead to the loss of life. How they knowingly say that their incredibly brainless, mindless, and irresponsible policies lead to a parade being turned to a mass casualty and terrorist event. Now that's something to be angry about, and something I will be angry about. But we're going to have a fun ending to the show today. We're going to make fun of cat moms in a story that, let's just say, you're not going to see coming. We're going to end up talking a little bit about a best-selling LGBT author. So that'll be something you won't see coming either. And that's it. Let's dive into the show. Marcus, you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. How y'all doing today?
How has your week been, buddy? Nothing? You got nothing for
Wait,
us?
what'd you say?
How's your week been?
Just work. As always.
As
Trying to keep it busy.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to make that money, trying to make that crop. Feed America. And clothe them.
I know you work way too hard.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm using time to pull up something I should have had pulled up. So, our first story, probably the biggest one of the year. But, let's see. Great news for the pro-life section of the American people. So, back on Wednesday, Scotus, the Supreme Court of the United States, started hearing oral arguments on the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization case. Now, if you don't know what this is, it is a case on a law coming from Mississippi known as the Gestational Age Act, and its main sticking point is that it restricts killing your kid after the 15th week of pregnancy, which is in direct defiance to Roe v. Wade, which puts the limit at the age of viability somewhere around 20 to 24 weeks. Although it must be said that viability keeps creeping back earlier and earlier, currently sitting the record at 21 weeks and 5 days. Now, in general, this is a terrible yardstick to decide when life begins, because this isn't what it's testing. So full disclosure, I started writing the script the day that the first day it started, and kind of built onto it just a little bit from that. So there's some weird pacing in it. Yeah, that's why. Marcus, have you followed this case at all?
I've watched it some as you wrote it here in the show notes, but man, I've been, well, we've been doing work. I just go to work, come home, shower, and sleep.
Yeah, I know you've been busy. So first off, let's say arguments from day one solidly went in the pro-life favor. We learned some things. Some things we probably knew. Stuff that, like, Justice Sotomayor is a activist, because she makes some really bad arguments here. I'm not gonna lie, it's bad. Just for y'all, I went and looked up the entire transcript from the first day. It's 125 pages, and it is worth reading some. So, first nonsensical thing from page 22, lines 4 through 6, because I am that on it. Justice Sotomayor makes this claim. Counsel, there's so much that's not in the Constitution, including the fact that we have the last word. Okay. So, I don't know if you've read the Constitution. I looked it up just to make sure that what she said was accurate. It was not. Mostly. So she's right on the fact that it doesn't explicitly say those words, or very nearly exactly say them. What Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution does say is this: the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may have time to time ordain and establish. Does that not sound like the framers intended for the Supreme Court to be the end-all be-all when it came to the Constitution, right?
Yeah, in a sense, I mean, once you reach the Supreme Court, you got the tippy top. Ain't nobody else to appeal to.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it doesn't give them the final word per se, but literally 3 seconds of thought and the knowledge of the words supreme and inferior showed that the framers pretty implicitly meant for the Supreme Court to have the final say on constitutional matters. That implication can be directly derived from the wordage and context of the line, i.e. judicial powers. So, honestly, how do you get on the Supreme Court if like, this is what you say? I get what she's getting at, and we'll get to what she's getting at in a minute, but I mean, just that alone, and it is a little out of context, but not much. You there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I just didn't know if you had anything to say on that. So what she said... No, you got nothing?
No, I'm just listening at this point.
So I did do a little bit of research on this. Now, the point that she's really trying to drive home, and this comes from lines 11 through 18 of that same page, and she says, and yet what the court did was reason from the structure of the Constitution that that's what was intended. And here, in Casey and in Roe, the court said that there is inherent in our structure that there are certain personal decisions that belong to individuals and the states can't intrude on them. So, like I said, Justice Sotomayor is the farthest left member of the Supreme Court by far, especially now that Justice Ginsburg passed away. What was it, 2 years ago now? It was a while ago, and as sad as any human passing, it's probably nice that she was not on the court anymore. So Justice Sotomayor, so I gotta try and say her name right, is trying to equate the first pretty obviously stated conclusion, the fact that the Supreme Court has the final say, with the fact that the framers intended within the Fourth Amendment, within a penumbra of the Constitution, as they call it, and if you don't know, because I had to look it up, penumbra is the partially shaded outer area of a shadow. Legally, it means something that a text is alluding to. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I had to look that up a while ago. Anyways, within the penumbra of the Constitution, to have the privacy to have an unlimited abortion. And just to prove it, here's the actual whole Fourth Amendment's text. It's not very long. Anybody who is willing to can go look it up. And it says, the rights of the people to be secured in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Where is the abortion alluded to? Whereas even medical procedures in general alluded to. Like, yes, there should be some privacy when it comes to medicine, and the Constitution, if you read the whole thing, does point to specific points of privacy. But how can you take all of these explicit private mandates and somehow try to build a case as to allow abortion under that? I mean, how does those expressly limited issues of privacy, how does that build a case to take the baby's life and liberty? Which is why the left has to make up the incredibly stupid argument that babies aren't alive so they can strip them of their rights. What do you think? Am I spot on, or do you disagree with something I said? Because I know a lot of people would disagree that it only gives specific privacies.
I think you're right on what they're trying to do. I think that they're right for trying to do it. I'm just confused as to how abortion fall under the Fourth Amendment, though, whatsoever.
So the case they make, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm sure a lot of people wonder that. The case they make is that abortion can't be illegal because it falls under the privacy that you have within with yourself. So you can't be secure in your person, house, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizure. So they're saying that.
Then what about the baby's privacy?
Oh, no, you're 100% correct. Like that's why, like I said, they have to try to make the inordinately stupid case that baby is not alive. It's just it's nuts.
If it's because the baby can't say anything, then
that's exactly why they don't have any sort of voice. You can kill a child
until they're 2 years old because they don't say anything until they're 1 or 2 years old anyway. That's the point. You can kill anybody. And then imagine somebody that's on the deathbed with the ventilator on a ventilator. You can kill them too, can't you?
Does that mean? Kill them? Yeah, I mean, does an 18-year-old who's on a ventilator who can't speak
what's the meaning?
I 100% agree. They have to make these idiotic and malicious because that's what this is. It's malicious, insinuations about these babies so that they can make the claim that they're not babies, they're not alive, they're just fetuses, they're clumps of cells, and the world's just fine having those clumps of cells ripped apart. And it's utterly disgusting. Utterly disgusting.
If abortions are so private, why are you going to see somebody about it? If you're that concerned about having a baby, you shouldn't go be seeing the doctor about it. It's that.
Dude, you're going to have to say all of that again because you were breaking up coming through.
It's starting to rain over here, so service gets bad with the rain. But if it's so private,
yeah, you're out again. I'm gonna have to keep going. I'm sorry, buddy, but I cannot hear anything you're saying. There, you're coming back in a little bit better. But she does. So Justice Sotomayor says another incredibly stupid thing. Actually, right before she gave that first statement, and this is going from page 20 into the 21st, so you can fact check me if you'd like. Says virtually every state defines a brain death as death, yet the official official literature is filled with episodes of people who are completely and utterly brain dead responding to stimuli. There's about 40% of dead people who, if you touch their feet, the foot will recoil. They are spontaneous acts by dead brain people. So I don't think that's a response to, by a fetus necessarily proves that it's a sensation of pain or that there's consciousness. And that has to be the dumbest. If you ever think you're dumb, this woman made it onto the Supreme Court. Like, no. There's a big difference here. These people you speak of are people who were born alive, lived, and then died, and they aren't coming back to life. To equate these people with developing babies in the womb, those who left to their own devices will develop into kids and then adults, makes me wonder how she was nominated to the Supreme Court in the first place. I mean, at least 51 senators decided that the person who would one day make this equation was suited to rule on the Constitution. How dumb do you have to be to make this? Like, I'm seriously trying to wrap my head around it, Marcus.
I believe it's whenever Democrats were controlled and they just wanted somebody on their side.
Oh, I agree. They wanted an activist up there. That's nothing new. But really, like, how can you make, how could any thinking person make this statement? I'm really at a loss. Like, I don't even see how someone could make it out of college, much less to the Supreme Court, trying to make this equivalency.
But you've got to remember the people that are saying this are also the same people saying that you can change your gender. So I mean, how much?
That's true. People, there's confusion. It's terrible.
I mean, they're saying you can be non-binary. You don't have to have a gender. What do you mean?
Yeah,
That makes no sense.
it doesn't make sense. It's stupid.
You can't magically. Oh, I'm a female today.
I don't know, dude. I do not know.
Yeah, baby.
Moving on, because again, I can barely hear you, and I'm sorry to anyone who's listening. Usually we don't have this issue, but the rain is anyway. I'm sorry, but again, I ask, if they aren't alive at conception, where are they alive? Is it when they have a heartbeat? Is it when they can feel pain? Is it when they've passed through the vaginal canal? The answer is none of those. They're alive at conception. You have a cell that has a full human a genome and amount of DNA to make a human. How is that not alive? But whatever. So real quickly, I want to break down the two main arguments for this case. It's a quick and dirty breakdown. You can read the full transcripts for yourself. Just Google it. So the dirty breakdown is as goes. Pro Kill Your Baby side makes the claim that this is settled law, and that while this is settled law is correct, and that by overturning it will, quote, propel women backwards. Pro-life side is simply, this case is too big for 9 people to decide, has no direct reference in the Constitution, and as such should revert back to the 10th Amendment, which is the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively. And I gotta say that making the case that this is settled law is just absolutely idiotic. Back when Roe v. Wade was made, it was not people still talk about the opinions on that as being garbage. And the science has propelled immensely in the past 50 years. Marcus, you wanna hone in on any of this?
I mean, Constitution once said that women couldn't vote, or that a black American was only 3/5 of a person. So, I mean, is that sound now, too, or can we not change that?
So, Marcus, I hate to tell you, but that's a terrible, thing. Just because the fact that the 14th Amendment exists, and it kind of...
Yeah, I know.
It kind of negated those within the text of the Constitution.
That's what I'm saying. If you can negate laws and cases with other laws and other cases.
Oh,
the
I
argument
get you.
This is already settled. Is beyond me, because stuff that's been settled in the past has already had new laws, new cases to overturn that.
I get you.
Nothing's ever truly settled when it comes to law and cases, because it changes. It changes every day, and it can change any day, any year, any given time.
I get what you're saying. And the nice thing about this, it's actually not codified into any amendment. There is no right to abortion. As Clarence Thomas, I'm sorry, brain fart there, asked in his questioning, he said, where is the right to an abortion within the Constitution? It's not there. It's not in any amendment. You have to make it up out of thin air as best you can, and he's 100% right. It's not there. Which is why it should be very easy to overturn this terrible piece of judicial history. And that can't reconcile the 60 million babies that were killed from it, but it is what it is.
It is.
People, they'll be quite really hell to pay for it. I just wish we didn't have to kill 60 million babies to get to this point. And that goes to one other thing about this case. It's that this is not going to be quite as big of a win as people think it will be. If Mississippi gets to keep their law in the books. All it means is that states can make their own abortion laws. So, like, in 20 to 23 states, roughly, as soon as this gets through the Supreme Court, they'll go on the books with laws banning abortion, which is fantastic, wonderful. We need more of it. But there's some states that'll, like probably California, New York, Portland, Oregon, all those very, very blue areas that'll probably legalize abortion up to and including partial birth abortions. That's a tough word to say, a tough phrase. And so, I mean, it's going to, in a lot of places in America, it's going to get even bloodier. Now, granted, 23 states not allowing abortions is a great thing and is a great win. But, yeah, we need to keep pushing and fighting because people think this is the end-all be-all, and it is not. So just remember that as you listen to and follow along with this story. Hopefully sometime this week they'll reach a verdict. You have anything to add on to this before we move on to Remi the Respectful Reindeer?
I just hope it goes the way it should go.
There is no defending abortion. It should go our way. There's no defending it.
It still happens. That's the thing that concerns me. There's no argument to defend it, but it still happens. So I'm hoping that the Supreme Court can realize that.
It is heartening to know. It's not heartening, but it is nice to know that the only reason that that Roe v. Wade got on the books is because of a very, very liberal court back in the 60s and 70s, and will be one of Donald Trump's crowning achievements if the three justices he put on the court go the way they should, and they overturn this terrible bit of madness. On to Remi the Respectful Reindeer. Kindergarten teachers use Remi the Respectful Reindeer to teach pronoun madness to little kids. That's just the headline. There's a video with this. I'm going to play it. Yeah.
This year, I decided to ditch Elf on the Shelf, so I want you to meet Remi the Respectful Reindeer. Remi isn't tied to Santa Claus or Christmas, and they decided to start us off with a story to give us a hint as to why they're in our class this year. Remi loves the book They, She, He, Easy as ABC because it's a fun, easy way to introduce littles to pronouns. After the story, Remi played a trick on us and tried to have us guess the pronouns that they prefer. But Remi quickly corrected us and helped us learn not to make assumptions about people just based off of what they look like, because our pronouns are all about what we feel inside. So, Remi had us practice asking, Remi, what are your pronouns? Together, we learned that our new friend Remi prefers they, them pronouns. My littles were so excited that Remi was feeling safe and welcome in our class team.
Okay. Where do we start with that, Marcus? There is so much.
Give me a minute. I'm going to go bang my head on the wall.
That's the exact right mindset. Like, so we talk about this on the show quite a bit, don't we, Marcus? Like, here's the question.
It keeps coming up.
Yeah. Here's the question. Why do 5-year-olds need to be inducted into this gender pronoun madness? Now, I know the answer, the true one, but I guarantee, and I think you'll agree with me, Marcus, I guarantee that if you asked the teacher, she would say that they're learning to be respectful and not hurt other people's feelings. First off, do people really need to be protected from what 5-year-olds say? Like, are you really that fragile? You're so fragile that an elementary school kid could bully you into hurting yourself over this, because that is the inevitable leftist conclusion. It's a clear indication that your mindset's not based on any type of reality whatsoever, but that you're trying to escape it. Would you agree with me? Like, that's nuts. It's nuts. Marcus?
It is nuts. I feel like this is almost a weekly occurrence for us, but on different stories that keep coming up.
And that's a testament to how bad it is, because every week we can get a different story easily. I mean, you could Google this and find stuff like this all over the place. And I mean, this just happened to be the one that caught my eye because it was flashing.
Not just a different story, a new story.
Yes.
And it's why aren't we just letting these kids have fun with Santa and the reindeer? They're kids.
They are kids. Exactly. They do not need to know what gender ideology is. They don't need to be your little turtles and talk about your, queerness from last week. But
the only pronouns they should be learning is the pronouns, not how to ask people to use them. They should be learning he, her.
Exactly.
What they mean, what they go
There
to.
is no Z's or Z's. There's not. There's no demon self.
And let's face
there
it.
is not.
And let's face it. It doesn't matter what
You're going to have to speak up. You're breaking up again.
they're not going to remember what they're being taught.
Yes, they
right
will.
Now.
Hold on. I'm going to fight you over this. They will 100% remember what they are being taught here.
They will to an extent, but at 5 years old, they're still young enough that if taught properly, they won't have this forever implemented. But if they keep having indoctrinated in them, then that's where the problem keeps occurring.
But that's why they indoctrinate them so young, and we're going to get to that in a second, because that's my main point behind all of this. But I disagree. I think they definitely will remember this. I mean, I still remember some stuff I did in kindergarten. That was, 20 years ago? It makes a difference what you do, especially at that age, because they say kids' minds are like sponges, and if you're feeding them this crap is what ends up in their head. But that's not even the point yet. Marcus. The point is that this ideology is so, at least a liberal will tell you, is so fragile that a 5-year-old calling a dude he can literally wreck someone's life. Like, yep, that's the person I want teaching mental health resiliency.
I mean, that's the reason why you can almost flip a coin on is whether or not they would try to kill themselves.
It really is. And we harp on that 41%, but when the average is 4.3%, and then you go 41%, and both of those are skewed off a little bit because came from a survey. You can't ask people who actually died if they've tried to commit suicide. So, those are skewed as well. It's closer to 50%. It really is.
And this is why. When a 5-year-old can hurt you like this.
Yes. You have no... You're not part of reality at that point. You are away from reality. You are outside of reality. You were in the Matrix if the Matrix was... I don't even know if the Matrix was... Actually, no. It's come to think of it, the Wachowski brothers who call themselves sisters. So, yeah, you're in the Matrix at that point because you're just living outside of any reality that's grounded in a basis of realism. So...
I mean, these kids are still picking and eating their burgers, and you're worried about what they call you?
They trade masks at recess because they like some other kids better. Like, these 5-year-olds don't know anything, and yet they call a sir a mister, and that's not their quote-unquote pronoun. Oh no! And then you see them hanging from a tree. But behind all of this ludicrousy, to get this train back on the tracks, behind all of this ludicrousy, that's not even the real reason why the left doesn't care if some people hurt themselves. They don't. Certain people certainly do. But as a movement, the lives of a few trans people aren't nearly as big as a prize as destroying little kids' identities. And when is better to do that before they start developing them? So Marcus, I got a question for you.
Yes.
What is the fastest by replenishment rates, by fertility rates, who is the fastest growing population in America? Just off the top of your head, I want to know what you guess.
Well, I have absolutely no idea, to be honest with you.
So, the reason why liberals have to go after kids especially is because parents generally seek to push their worldviews on their kids. They do. As for most of them, they should. Religious people tend to skew to the right. So religious parents try to push their kids to the right. I know mine did, thankfully. Didn't end up a moron. And towards the realities that you're born male or female, that it is what you are, and hormones and surgery can't change that. Or the fact that a baby in a womb is a human life with value and shouldn't be killed. Add to that the fact that Christians and other religions, for that matter, have a much higher fertility rate, 2.1 for Christians versus 1.6 for unaffiliated or atheist. Actually, interesting fact, Muslims have the highest fertility rate at 2.7 right now. So, that's great. But yeah, that's from Pew Research Center, by the way. And you can see for yourself why numbers can change if the liberals don't go after your children. And we can already start seeing that happening. In fact, in the very liberal secular Northeast, they have the highest population of adults per capita, like something at 80%. Whereas in the much more conservative and religious South, people under the age of 18 are a statistically relevant higher percentage. Something like only 77% of people in the South are over the age of 18. And this is all per the 2020 consensus, so they will lose this war of attrition if they do not go after the kids. Because the kids are the future of this country, which is why you have to know, and I end a lot of these, segments by saying this, you have to know what your kids are doing in school. You have to be present. You can't let teachers push, genderqueer on them while they're in middle school, because that's what's happening. That's what's happening all across the country. Fun fact about that, I called my mom after the episode last week, and she was like, I really wish you'd put a parental disclaimer on that. But I'm like, I can't, we can't back down from what they're putting out there and what they want the kids to read, right?
Exactly.
You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. We can't control everything. We can try our best to stop it, but it takes a group of people. Mm-hmm. So we got to set up as a group.
And that's not the point of the story. It's just a very logical conclusion of where it needs to go. Any last thoughts before we move on to a brutal Brazen crime wave?
No, it's just the only thing I can say is about standing up is you look at all the pride parades and stuff. We've got to have that for what we believe in. We've got to have the parades for what we believe in a sense. We've got to come together like they do to show that what we want really matters too.
So, fun fact, did you know that for the Women's March for in support of abortion, there's actually a different Women's March, there's Women's March for Life, that generally draws crowds about 10 times higher than that. And you hear about the one for abortion, but you never hear about the one for life because they put it down a memory hole. They try and not let you know that there's all of these people out there marching for life. So there are people out there. There needs to be more. We have to be out there and be loud, put our voices out there, because it is that important. Yeah. And with that, on to crime. Because that's becoming a thing. Yeah, I know, right? We're almost to the fun stuff, guys. We're almost to the fun stuff. We still got to be angry. So, brutal Brazen crime wave is sweeping over Los Angeles and creeping into the wealthier enclaves of the city. So, to anybody who's paying any sort of attention, since the pandemic began, crime is way, way up, mostly in liberal cities. The defund the police crowd, well, obviously they don't care too much about minorities and the poor among them, as they are the hardest hit when police leave and looters move in. But things are starting to hit even the wealthier now. So, do you know what's been happening, especially in California and San Francisco and Los Angeles recently, Marcus? Because I'm here to tell you. Go ahead.
I've just seen, burglars like smashing stuff, and it's just a mess over there. Is what I've seen. I've just seen, it just looks almost like some cases, a little almost like some of the riots where they just don't care and they're just going to steal. And it's like a while back they made a law where essentially in California you can steal up to $500 worth of something and not even be prosecuted for it.
Oh, you're 100% right.
Of course you can. Of course you can have stealing go up when you can go steal a PS5 and have nothing happen to you.
Mm-hmm. So crews of burglars are publicly smashing their way into Los Angeles' most exclusive stores. Robbers following their victims, including a star of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and a vet host to their residence. And this week, the fatal shooting of an 81-year-old Jacqueline Avant, admired philanthropist and wife of music legend Clarence Avant, in her Beverly Hills home. After 2 years of rising violent crime in Los Angeles, these incidents have sparked a national conversation and led to public concern about both the crimes themselves and where the outrage of violence will end. So all this beforehand was in, like, not so nice areas that generally have a lot of crime anyway. This is moving into the wealthier areas. It's not as bad as it was in the 1990s, but it has jumped sharply, especially in places like Chicago, San Francisco. You look at San Francisco, they're closing chain stores there left and right because, I mean, those companies aren't going to eat that cost of being looted, not more than once. But this is where it goes wrong for wealthy elites. Since the start of the pandemic and more rapid in recent months, crime has crept up in wealthier enclaves and thrust its way to the center of public discourse in LA against a backdrop of COVID-19 angst, evolving political perceptions of what role police and prosecutors play, blah, 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 blah. Here's the real numbers, though. Homicides are up 46.7% compared to 2019, which is an incredibly high jump. Shooting victims are up 51.4%, and I want to say that this probably means younger people are doing the shooting because they don't have the experience to, hit their targets as accurately, and so they're getting more. There's more hits, but it's not quite as fatal, which suggests that it's younger people doing it, in my opinion. There have been 359 homicides in LA in 2021 at the end of November, compared to 355 of all of 2020. So it's getting worse. It's getting worse. Like, what do you think? Because, of course, I have what I want to say here.
What do you think is going to happen when you defund the police? What do you think is going to happen when? Do you think the wealthy is going to stay untouched? Exactly. Whenever there's, what do you expect when you try to let people have these freedoms to riot and loot, kill, and destroy? What do you think is going to happen?
It's a morally decaying culture over there. I mean, you think about it. In lots of areas over there, what do you think the fatherlessness rate in homes are? I guarantee you it's close to 80%. Add to the fact that DAs over there are just trying to get as many people out of prisons as they can for this reform, which we'll again talk about in just a couple of minutes. I mean, you're right. What can you expect when it gets to that point?
I mean, I get it. You're thinking show for the election, but do you think it's just going to stop whenever the election stops? No. You think it's going to stop this that you'd already started?
Try it again.
Yeah, exactly. And instead of loosening up on the laws for letting you steal more without getting in trouble, tighten down.
That's the only way this will. I won't say it's the only way to get better. What'll make it get better is fathers having children and then staying and raising them to be men. That'll help a lot. A lot more than people seem to think, but nobody wants to have that conversation. They don't want to have, what is it, personal responsibility? That's just not something that they want there, which is terrible.
No, that's hard. That's too tough.
That is too tough. That's too much. That's too much work on yourself that you have to do. Just blame it on the next person.
Exactly.
It really is getting crazy over there. There's a video that came out just last week of a couple eating out at like a nice place over there. And then two people came in, pulled a gun on them, and robbed them of everything. And the worst part, it was like the most casual thing ever. Literally, the woman just started taking off her, watch all calmly and handed it to him. The guy just picked out his wallet and put it in the dude's hand. And then they just walked out. I mean, That's how it's expected. There's video of people stopped at a red light just busting into someone's car and taking everything they can get their hands on and hopping back in their own car. I mean, you can see their license plate. You know who it is. It's not that hard for them to track down. It's just they can't arrest them. They cannot arrest them, and they can't prosecute them because of these terrible, terrible, terrible policies. Like the one that led to the Waukesha massacre 2 weeks ago. Almost 15 days ago now. You know what happened, right?
Which one was that one?
The one where the guy drove his SUV through a parade.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you know what's the worst part of that? Do you really know what the worst part of that is? Just a couple of days before that, he allegedly, gotta say allegedly, he got out on a comically low $1,000 bail after having a 50-page rap sheet, and also running his ex-girlfriend, who he has a kid with, over with that same exact SUV. Allegedly. Gotta throw the allegedly in there. Like, what? So 2 separate judges freed him on a low-cost bail, record show. First for $500 in February after allegedly shooting at his nephew. Allegedly shooting at his nephew. He was out on a $500 bail. By the way, we do have some stuff to say about this DA in just a second. And again, $1,000 earlier this month after a woman accused him of punching her and running her over with the same SUV that allegedly plowed through Waukesha's Christmas parade, killing 5 and injuring 48. So I'm not going to talk about this guy's name because I don't want to give him the notoriety. But that's what this guy did. And actually, it's 6
how many
now.
allegedly does it take?
No, he's on camera. He just hasn't been convicted yet. He once he goes through the court system, it's an easy win. It's an easy dunk. If the DA who's going to be prosecuting him wasn't this DA, and we'll get to that in a second. Let me just tell you how bad this guy is. So it's actually 6 dead now, 5 grandmas and a little boy, an 8-year-old little boy, mind you, who were ran over, and 48 other people injured. This guy, who has battery charges and firearms offenses dating back to 1999, was convicted of statutory sexual seduction, a felony, in 2006 after having sex with a 15-year-old girl in Nevada. She became pregnant. He received 3 years probation and became a registered sex offender. What? This guy was led on a $1,000 bail. He is bail jumped in Nevada. He still has an open warrant in Nevada, and he got out of jail twice because of that. No, even in spite of that. Like, are you kidding me? So the DA, and while I do mean district attorney, I also mean that in another way, fill in the blank. His name's John Chisholm. And in 2007, the year he was elected, this is what he said. Is there going to be an individual I divert? Before I say this, he ran on the fact that he was going to issue bail reform, so cash bail would be a lot lower. He was going to try and empty out the prisons. And he said this: is there going to be an individual I divert or I put into a treatment program who's going to go out and kill somebody? You bet. Guaranteed. It's guaranteed to happen. These are his own words. It does not invalidate the overall approach. You want to take this before I do? Because I got it right here ready to go.
What's the point of the program if they still go out and do what they're doing before? They're still out to kill or steal.
Mm-hmm. The circular reasoning, the logical leaps you have to make. And yeah, he's saying, like, we want to be more equitable. How about you do your job? If you want to get people out of jail, why don't you become a criminal defense lawyer? They make a lot more, just so you know. So this guy's dumb and stupid. So, but yeah, I guess the fact that that if you know it's going to happen, it makes it all right. Of course that invalidates the whole approach, dude. Like, what? Of course it invalidates the whole approach. You know that if this stupid approach hadn't been taken, you know how 5 grandmothers and a kid would still be alive, and dozens of injured children and adults wouldn't be in the hospital over Thanksgiving. Like,
well, that's like saying, you know, if we leave a pizza in the oven for 24 minutes, It may burn. Does that mean we shouldn't do it? No, I want to burn pizza.
We have a bomb here in the middle of this square, and it'll definitely go off and hurt some people, but we're gonna leave it. Like,
because you know.
How about not giving easy bail to criminals when you know that their murder is guaranteed to happen? And yes, I'm taking his words out of context there, but only very slightly. And it goes up. It's not even this guy, just this guy. Not 24 hours after the massacre, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC as we will call her, and several other New York representatives sent letters to the 5 borough DAs asking for ways bails can be reformed. She tweeted this and sent that letter out before the last victim had even died. Now, would I have rather that victim not die? Of course. That little boy, that 8-year-old boy, before he even died, she had sent out a letter saying, hey, the same thing that let this happen, let's see if we can make it happen in New York.
Or anywhere.
Or anywhere. But this is specifically for New York. I mean, the mental gymnastics you have to go through to be a liberal. Honestly, liberals are the smartest people on earth, and if they can pull their heads out of their rear ends, they might actually be smart, because the liberal gymnastics, the mental gymnastics you have to go through to say, hey, this guy just got out on a really cheap bail, he ran over 6 people and killing them, and 48 others and injuring them. That guy just did that. Why don't we implement the same policy over here? Like, the mental gymnastics you have to go through to make that okay is astounding. It's astounding. But yeah, let's just.
What's bad is it starts. It starts there. It's a slippery slope for the rest.
Mm-hmm. Why not just let child rapists out at this point? Why don't you let serial killers out? You know. Why about Jeffrey Dahmer? Is he still alive? Has he been executed? I don't know, but why don't you let him out too? Let's just defund the police. Have ridiculously low bail prices, or just what is it called? Substitutional bail prices, where they just sign their name and just you only pay the bail if you don't show up. Like, you don't even have to get money. Reality is going to catch up.
Why would we just cancel jails?
Yeah, just can't. No jails. It's the purge 24/7. You know, I hope you're stocked up and locked and loaded. It's becoming the Wild West out here. Reality is going to catch up, and in many places it already has, and these people aren't going to like it. There you go.
Well, what's bad is some of the realities that are catching up. They're going to want to blame stuff like, oh, well, the reason why more people are getting killed is because of guns. So we're going to try to outlaw guns, or they're going to try to do even more stupid stuff that punish us.
And that's the worst thing, is they're definitely going to 100% use that. I mean, they can't use this per se, but they will 100% use something like this to say, oh, we're going to let criminals out. But even the mainstream media said a car ran over a bunch of people. They didn't say a criminal driving a car. It was a car or an SUV that ran over these people. So just want to say that. All right, Marcus.
My thing is why aren't they screaming to ban cars? Or why aren't they screaming to ban SUVs? It just had a massacre. What about the guns that kill people? Those are the guns. What about this car? Why aren't we trying to ban the car?
Hey, when was the last time you had a single man with a gun? And it may be Los Angeles, but that was a little ridiculous. Not Los Angeles, Las Vegas, but that was really ridiculous. When was the last time you had a man with a single weapon kill 4 people and wound 48 others and get away? That's all I'm saying. Vehicles are much more potent as weapons in that type of situation than a gun is. Anyway, moving on. Marcus, are you ready to have some fun? I think you know which. You know which segment I'm about to come with. I'm about to bring up.
Oh, I'm ready for it.
You ready? Woman.
I'm ready.
Yeah, no one's gonna know. Oh, here we go. I love this. So, thank you, Laura, my wonderful girlfriend, for sending me this. Also, I'm specifically making fun of you and other cat parents here. Anyways, in Atlanta, a woman flying from Syracuse, New York, to Atlanta startled fellow passengers aboard a Delta Airlines flight when she... Hold on, I need a minute. When she began breastfeeding her hairless, not even a regular cat, her hairless cat tonight. Mid-flight. Her hairless cat mid-flight. She started breastfeeding her cat on a plane in the middle of a flight to Atlanta. So this incident happened on board Delta Flight 1360. And according to what appears to be an image of an aircraft communications addressing and reporting system posting on social media, the passenger seated in 13 Alpha was approached by a flight attendant who asked her to put the cat back in its carrier. The woman reportedly refused. The ACAR, which communicated to ground transportation, read, "Passengers in 13 Alpha is breastfeeding a cat and will not put cat back in its carrier when flight attendant requested." Can you just imagine being in like 13 Bravo here? Or like 12 Alpha, or just like you turn to the person beside you and she is breastfeeding a hairless cat. Oh my goodness.
Oh, my thing is this like a kitten or just a cat?
I don't know. They haven't released video footage, but holy smokes, dude.
And then better yet, is she giving birth recently?
Say what?
Is she giving birth recently? Is she giving birth recently to like, or is she like leaving her kid but carrying her cat?
There you go. Like, her kid must not be there. So like, well, these are full. Let's take the cat up. Cat parents are crazy. Cat parents are nuts. Like I said, my girlfriend is one person who loves cats. I love my girlfriend, but she's crazy. She's in this particular instance. It's not just cat people. Like, people who think dogs are their children too are just as nuts. I had a teacher in high school who had like 17 dogs, and she once told us that if they were all starving, she would start cutting like parts of her finger off. And I'm like, what? No. Pets are not that important. No. Like, what? That's honestly though, when I saw this, I'm like, this is too good not to talk about. I know it has nothing to do with being outraged, but you know, the fact that the Supreme Court is here in this case has me in a good mood, so we're gonna talk about it. You have anything to say on crazy?
Well, you gotta have good news.
Exactly. You can't be all negative. All right.
I do think animal parents have gotten out of control in this world.
Yes, they call their pets kids and treat them like kids, and pets are not kids.
No,
pets are not kids. They're not as intrinsically valuable as kids. Anyway, all right, on to the last story, and this guy is my hero. He's my hero. We've talked about him on here before. Honestly, watching his show is what started me doing this. So yeah, I'll stop waxing soliloquy here. Matt Walsh's Johnny the Walrus hits #1 on Amazon's LGBTQ plus list. His response is priceless. So Matt Walsh is a Daily Wire podcast host and beloved children's author who just released a children's book called Johnny the Walrus. And it's about... I actually bought this book for my niece. And it's just as much for me as it is for her. So it's about a kid who has a very active imagination. And one day pretends to be a walrus. And his mom was fine with him being creative and playful. And so it was fine until the internet got a hold of his impressionable mom, who then said if he's pretending to be a walrus, he must be a walrus. And so she bought everything so that he could be a walrus and live as a walrus. And everyone was like, what? What? it turns out that you don't actually need to listen to people on the internet saying that you are what you're not. It's an anti-trans book, 100%, and I'm here for it. Some things he said though is that I now have the number one LGBT book in the country. Any further criticism of me or my book is now homophobic. Walsh wrote to Twitter Sunday morning. Checkmate. Love it. I love the pettiness. I love how he's using their own terms against them here. So Walsh, a fierce cultural critic on the right, has also taken the liberty to changing his Twitter handle to better reflect his services to best-selling LGBT author Matt Walsh. It's so petty, it's so stupid, and I love it. I love it. The book challenges the radical transgender agenda being pushed on children. So it does fall into the LGBTQ category, but not in the way progressives would like. There's a video up if you want to hear what it says. Like I said, I bought one for my niece, and it's just as much for me because it's just so funny. Yeah. So posting a screenshot of a bad review from someone angry about Walsh's book and the messaging, the podcast host snarked, "I am stunned by the bigoted 1-star reviews attacking my number one best-selling LGBT book." It's awesome. I love it. I'm here for it. Marcus, you need to read this book. It's 30 pages long. It's on cardboard. It's a literary masterpiece. Oh, man, I hope one day I can be this petty and effective in this fight.
Maybe that's what we got to do. Maybe we just need to be petty.
Keep talking. My mic is stopped. Oh, there it went.
But this may be what we have to do, is to stoop their level of stupidity to show them how stupid and bad this is.
It really is. It's ridiculous. Just the fact that, like, you're telling kids that that a guy can be a girl and back, and like we've already pointed out tonight, we're not going to rehash it tonight. We will later, but we're not going to rehash it tonight. That close to 50% of people.
Yes, next week.
Do that next week. We'll find another story. I guarantee you, there's one out there.
Yes, always.
So anyway, that was going to be the end of the show, and then I was on TikTok beforehand, just kind of relaxing before the show because I want to bring you the best relaxed content version of myself. And I stumbled upon this, and it was too good not to put at the end of the show to have a good time at the end. So Marcus, you ready? I know you saw it. I love this. People are going to be really mad at me about this, but I don't care. Whatever.
I'm ready. I watched it multiple times for the laugh.
Do you want me to help you with that?
Why? Because you're a man? You think I can't do it? You think I can't do it, Mr. Man? You think I can't do it? Because I'm a woman with weak little arms and you're a big strong man and you're coming to save me? Is that why?
Open yours, but please don't tell anyone.
Oh my goodness! I'm sorry, I didn't realize there was a headphone warning I needed to issue there. That's the first time I heard it on these headphones. But that's amazing. That's amazing. Also, feminists are the worst thing to happen in the 20th century. Just because they directly led to 60 million babies getting killed. So, on that note, Marcus, it was really fun. We gonna see you next week.
Hopefully.
So I will put out some housekeeping. Starting at the beginning of the year, this show will be moving exclusively to YouTube. I will post a link to it before on Facebook to the live show there before 8 o'clock, so you can just click on that, go right over there. But yeah, we're moving it over to YouTube. We hope to see you over there just as much as we see you over here, and maybe just a little bit more. It'll be fantastic, guys. So thank you for showing up. Go do yourself something to get canceled, because you're probably doing something right. See you guys.